reality. InfoWarsLife.com.
Did Chris Brown just endorse Endgame? Earlier today, the R&B singer tweeted out his thoughts on the current Ebola pandemic, calling it a form of population control. Now, much like anything that the singer says, his thoughts were instantly met with criticism. But are his thoughts that far off? Now, earlier this month, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan also spoke out about Ebola, calling it a form of population control. He specifically said Ebola, like AIDS, was designed to kill Black people. We've reported extensively on the elite's obsession with eugenics, which is, of course, the idea that the world should be culled of its less desirables. Now there is its current day incarnation, population control, which the elites have been obsessed with for more than 100 years. Take into account the National Security Study Memorandum 200. It was completed in December 1974 under the direction of Henry Kissinger. It outlined the implications of worldwide population growth for U.S. security and overseas interests. The policy gives paramount importance to population control measures in countries that the U.S. would seek to exploit their resources. And in 2006, Dr. Eric Pianka, a biologist based at the University of Texas in Austin, advocated the need to exterminate 90% of the world's population through the airborne Ebola virus. And we cover all of this, eugenics and these race-specific population control measures, extensively in our documentary, Endgame.
In the draft copy of the United Nations Global Biodiversity Assessment, it states very clearly that we must reduce the human population from what's current level of about 6 billion people down to about 1 billion people.
In the 1970s, South Africa developed race-specific bioweapons to target blacks and Asians, and then subsequently sold the technology to Israel in the mid-1980s. In September of 2000, the Project for a New American Century published a document in which Dick Cheney described race-specific bioweapons as politically useful tools.
And somebody mentioned, well, why would they want to reduce the human population when that means less money for them? Most people have no idea. They're not after money. They have all the money they need. They're after power. That's their aphrodisiac.
Now you can watch Endgame in its entirety for free right here, or you can head over to the InfoWarsStore.com and pick up your own high-quality DVD. But whatever you decide to do, visit InfoWars.com, become a subscriber to the Alex Jones YouTube channel. Every day you are going to find the information that you need to fight the New World Order. So thanks for the endorsement, Chris Brown.
I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.
Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder, backed by FDA-approved phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water, ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. Take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Does anyone in the federal government really understand what their mission is? We see today that the Pentagon has unveiled plans for dealing with climate change. Yes, that's their priority, climate change. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel addressed the Conference of Defense Ministers of the Americas today with a comprehensive plan on how the U.S. military will address the effects of climate change. Listen, the hockey stick that Michael Mann created, that Al Gore has used in his documentaries, is not happening. The rise in CO2 has not been accompanied by a rise in global temperatures. They've gone down. Yet they're still jousting at that windmill. They're still trying to pretend that that's something that's real. We have a real hockey stick emergency, and that's the Ebola outbreak. Yet the military is not the right tool to use there either. Except that when you see that the only tool that you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We've gone from a situation where every problem in society needs to be addressed by the federal government to a situation where every problem in society needs to be addressed by the military or a militarized police. We got a drug problem? Throw brute force at it. And that's what they're doing now. Now, when we don't understand what the mission is, when we see that back in 2010, for example, remember in 2010, July 2010, we had the head of NASA under Obama saying that his mission was to reach out to Muslims. And so now we see the U.S. military fighting Ebola, fighting climate change, and of course, involved in many wars throughout the world. Wars that in many cases are perhaps started by false flags. Have we seen the uncovering of the planning of a false flag in a trial that's going on right now? The Washington Post reports that in a probe of silencers, it leads to a web of Pentagon secrets. They say a criminal investigation has exposed a secret weapons program that was entwined with allegations of a sweetheart contract, fake badges, and trails of destroyed evidence. Now, this is a civilian naval intelligence officer who conspired to manufacture untraceable batch of automatic rifle silencers or suppressors. He conspired with the brother of the directorate, a guy who is a mechanic, an auto mechanic in California, to make 349 suppressors. They say they don't really know what the purpose of this was. Was it really a rogue mission, or was it something just criminal action that these guys were involved in? Now, they work in the Pentagon, and they have, listen to this, a directorate for plans, policy, oversight, and integration. They say the directorate is composed of fewer than 10 civilian employees, most of them retired military personnel. And as one person from the Navy said, I know it sounds goofy, but it was like they were building their own mini law enforcement and intelligence agency. Now, the interesting part of this is that it isn't just this group of people conspiring to secretly make untraceable suppressors. In a pretrial hearing, a defense attorney for the auto mechanic accused the Navy of impeding the investigation by destroying a secret stash of automatic rifles that the silencers were designed to fit. See, the plot thickens. At this point, the Navy is destroying rifles that these silencers are going to be put on. And so they asked the question. Well, of course, the prosecutors there for the government immediately said, stop. This is top secret. They point out that if foreign-made weapons were equipped with unmarked silencers, the source said, the weapons could have been used by U.S. or foreign forces for special operations in other countries without any risk that they would be traced back to the United States. Yes, it looks like the perfect setup for some kind of false flag terrorist event or staging something either domestically or foreign. Remember that it was just about a year ago, it was back in August of 2013, that we reported here at INFOWARS that the U.S. Army was buying nearly 600,000 Soviet AK-47 magazines fully loaded. And of course, the U.S. Army doesn't use AK-47s. These were AK-47s that they destroyed as part of that plot. Well, speaking of conspiracy theories and suppressors, let's talk about Dick Cheney. He's doing interviews, and he said in an interview with Bill Kristol, I think 9/11 will turn out to be not nearly as bad as the next mass casualty attack against the U.S., which, if and when it comes, will be something far deadlier than with airline tickets and box cutters. And Cheney also defended the so-called enhanced interrogation techniques, specifically waterboarding, as well as defending the NSA. And then Kristol ended the conversation by thanking Dick Cheney for his model public service. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Now, for the last month, police in Pennsylvania have been looking for someone who entered a police station, killed one police officer, and gravely wounded another. That's understandable. What is not understandable is the lengths that they have gone to. It's undeclared martial law, like we saw in Boston following the bombing there. And a couple of examples. I talk about one person who went out to pick up a pizza and didn't get home until 24 hours later. Another one lost a day's pay because he couldn't leave his home to go to work. The massive police manhunt for suspected cop killer Eric Frein has resulted in unannounced and indefinite roadblocks. A shelter-in-place directive prevented residents from leaving their houses for more than 24 hours at one point, and those who weren't already home could not return. Many people were left to sleep in their cars. And as another report says, they're spending $1.1 million per week to look for this cop killer, using up to 300 troopers. Now, they haven't gone crazy like the cops in LA shooting people that don't match any description to this man, but this is something that we should all be very concerned about, to see that they can enact something that's equivalent to martial law. As one lawyer said on his website, he said, just because their brethren was murdered, one of their brethren was murdered, does not give them a right to violate your rights. And that's exactly the point. Well, there was a massive document dump on Friday, a great time to put out something that you don't want people to pick up, especially when there's a lot of news about a pandemic breaking out. This one was about the Clinton White House. They say tens of thousands of pages of previously secret files detailing the inner workings of President Bill Clinton's White House as it struggled with then First Lady Hillary Clinton's high-profile failure on health care reform was released on Friday. This is from Politico. They say the papers show a White House that was unabashed in its desires to manipulate the media through selective leaks and carefully chosen interviews. Now, keep that in mind as we go over one aspect that was released on Friday. They're putting stuff out now that is going to support them with their base. And what we're learning is that they wanted to regulate militia groups. They say in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombing, the Clinton administration considered the possibility of aggressive new regulation of domestic militia groups, including publishing membership lists of such organizations, requiring them to register with the federal government, requiring them to get permission before they could offer paramilitary training. And of course, if you're going to ban people giving quote-unquote paramilitary training, that's something where the definition is pretty malleable, just like assault rifle. It's not very well defined. But this is also interesting. Advisor Dick Morris said to them at the time, the public overwhelmingly supports a significant expansion in the FBI's ability to investigate militia groups. If you and the Justice Department believe such an expansion would be in the public interest, I would recommend we go ahead with a high-profile announcement. But the White House didn't want any of this. As a matter of fact, someone, Jennifer O'Connor, who is now working for the Obama White House, controlling the IRS scandal, also selling us Obamacare, said this at the time. She instructed them that this is not information that should be put on paper. But now it's been put on paper, and of course it's been carefully leaked to their base via Politico. She also said, the ideas that we've talked about are really bad ideas, and they were bad ideas at the time. Of course, lawyers who analyzed this at the Department of Justice and at the White House said that they strongly believed that it was a serious mistake. Not so much that they thought it would be unconstitutional. They had a little bit of reservations about that, but they were most concerned about how the public would react to it. They said, we worry that further proposals of the type being discussed could be depicted in very menacing terms to average citizens and could tip the political balance against the president. Yes, it looks very menacing to me to register to prohibit militias. That was the main line of defense under the Constitution, not a permanent standing army. They were very concerned that we did not have a permanent standing army. They saw that as a threat to our liberties. It was a militia composed of armed citizens that was to be our line of defense. Well, that's it for tonight's news. Join us again tomorrow at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're not a subscriber to our broadcast and you're watching it on YouTube, please consider becoming a subscriber there, as well as supporting our operation. Your subscription will help to fund this operation, and you can share it with 11 people, seeing the news each night as it happens, as well as watching Alex Jones's documentaries, all available there on Prison Planet TV. Join us tomorrow night. Thank you.
City of Austin tap water versus filtered City of Austin tap water.
I can taste dirt in it.
God knows what's in this.
This has an aftertaste.
Tastes like Austin water? Yeah, it does. Ugh.
These people just sampled City of Austin tap water straight from the faucet. Next, we had them try a sample of tap water filtered through the ProPure G2.0 filtration system.
High quality H2O.
That one is better.
Tastes like nothing.
Yep, I know what good water tastes like. It's good water.
Most tap water contains added substances like fluoride, chlorine, Monsanto's deadly pesticide, glyphosate, and many others. Studies prove that these substances are linked to an assortment of major health issues, including tooth decay, lowered IQ, and even cancer.